So I formally start this meeting and I hand over to Dr. Ramesh, who is going to give an introduction about our services.
Right, thanks, Zoab. So this is our itinerary. We're going to do introduction. That's me, Dr. Ramesh, and then the journey and university selection by Dr. Ryan, about A levels and medical school application tips by Akshay, a medical student, work experience by Dr. Ryan and Mrs. Carol, and they're going to do a role play as well. UCAT by Dr. Ananda, and personal statement by myself, Ramesh, interview course, and the mock and mentorship program by Mrs. Carol. And the last one is a question and answer session by Dr. Zoab. So we'll start the session now. Next slide, please. So Way to Med School is a part of RAC Medics. RAC Medics is like a parent organization, and it has got loads of branches. The first one is Way to Med School, where we train people to get into med school. The second one is Way to PACES. PACES is a postgraduate exam MRCP, and that's a practical element of the exam MRCP. So that's Way to PACES. We train people who appear for the exam. And the third section is Way to Palliative Care, because I'm a palliative care specialist working in hospice here. And we train people in palliative care for different courses and towards the exams. And also we recently started a YouTube channel for Way to Palliative Care for people, mainly, let's say, focusing on people in India to make them aware about palliative care and other things. So these are all the three things which are running at this minute. And with the RAC Medics, we're also offering like a BLS training, basic life support training. The reason I'm telling you is if you come across all these things, it's all us only. There's nowhere else. It's all us. And so many other branches are to come. Thank you. Next slide, please. So Way to Med School, our vision is first of all train and mentor students to fulfill their aspirations to become doctors and get into medical school, and also mainly to build the foundations to become a fantastic, well-rounded doctors. Next slide, please. Mission, how do we do it? First of all, we need like provide expert guidance from our like expert professionals, like qualified healthcare professionals within us. And we support students in this journey, not only to become doctors, our journey doesn't stop there. It will continue to support them in their postgraduate professional development. And with all these things, we use like a comprehensive curriculum as a guide. Next slide, please. We work on values. First one is a passion. You can see we are all very passionate in what we do, and that's what brings in this table and then offer our services. Excellence, always aim to one step ahead. There's nothing called we have reached the maximum. There's always we need to work for and do the best. What next? And that's our team. One of the values are there. Teamwork. Yes, obviously we are a big team, and you see only a small amount of the team here, physical presence in Zoom. And integrity. Yes, we are always honest and maintain the integrity. We will tell exactly what we can offer, what we can offer, and the limitations. Everything will. It's a black and white. There's nothing hidden. Thank you. Next slide, please. And this is our team. We're going to say here, and myself is there, and Dr. Zoab, you can say hi.
Hello.
Yeah, and Mrs. Carol.
Hello.
Dr. Ryan.
Hello, everyone.
Dr. Ananda.
Hello, everyone.
Akshaya.
Hello.
And Mrs. Vijayalakshmi.
Hello.
Right, we are all from different specialities, and we've got plenty of clinical experience plus teaching experience. And as it says, like Akshaya is a medical student, she's a second-year student in Leeds University, and Mrs. Vijayalakshmi is for like a great admin support for all of us. So we are the ones who are present today, and there are loads of other team members out there in various specialties and various healthcare professional titles. Let's say in terms of doctors, we've got psychiatrists, general practitioner, general surgeon, orthopedician, pediatrician, and in terms of nurse consultants, advanced nurse practitioners in different specialties. So we've got like a big team.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Ramesh. So I hope you're all having a nice Saturday so far. I'm going to talk about the way to med school. So obviously you're all here now. You may know quite a lot about what it takes to get into medical school. You might be like I was at this stage and not really know much about getting into medical school. What I'm going to focus on with this little moving diagram will be the extra stuff you need to do outside of school along the way over the next 18 months or so to get into medical school. We're going to go along in our W2M car. Take my word for it, as a Ferrari engine. And we're going to go along and we're going to see what we need to do at each stage. And if you have any questions at any time, just pop them in the chat. All right. So we'll start out where we are at the moment. You see this signpost there. That's us in October. So we're going to start from there with our car. So we're going to go along first of all, and I've just put here work experience. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about that a bit later, but essentially our first start of trying to work out if we want to do medicine and getting to know what the job's like, knowing how the NHS works, building up that evidence that we're going to show off to all of the medical schools to show that we know what we're getting into when we're applying to medical school. So that ideally needs to all be done from now onwards till about when we get to July by the very least, if not August. That should be all wrapped up and with a nice bow on top. So we're going to go along a bit further. I put a little signpost in March because we might have another session again just to talk through in a bit more detail about everything that needs to be done going forwards. And then we get to June. We have a bit of a spin round, and then we get to July. So I put a little signpost in July in green, and there's another one in green in September. Now, alongside getting all this work experience, come that time, you're going to have to sit an exam. It's an entrance exam called the UCAT, and your score will dictate kind of how you're ranked and help, hopefully, in your application to medical school. But it's an important part that you need to do for your application, which Dr. Anand will talk about a bit later. And I've just put that in green there, and you can sit this between July and September. Now, if we go along a bit more to the end, I've put a mark in October. So it'll be around this time next year that applications have to be completed and sent off to all the universities. So it's a much earlier than all the other university courses, bar dentistry. So you need to have sent your application off and submitted it by mid-October. The rest of the university courses are usually January, so it's important to be aware of this, that we really, for you guys, if you're in year 12, you have 1 year to get all the rest of the things done. And I've just put in orange here about the UCAS application, and that ties in with this October signpost. That's our time from then that we're going to be working on that with different things as well, like the personal statement. Now we're going to go around the corner. So at that point, we've sent it off. We're going to start getting some offers in, hopefully, and we need to start preparing for interviews at this time next year onwards. So we're getting into November. So medical school interviews, usually you'll start to get invitation to these interviews at around mid-November time onwards, and interviews can go up until March, sometimes a bit further on than that. It varies based on the medical school. So we go to the end, and hopefully you have all your interviews at that point and you have done quite well and you may have had some offers. But along the way, I've just put this, that we're going to be here from now until the end. And that can be in a variety of ways of things we offer, which we'll talk about a bit more at a later date. But you can see the W2M signpost along here. We've got one next year in October. That's kind of when we start to do our interview course, as well as mock interviews. And kind of we will continue this November onwards. And we also offer one-to-one interview tuition as well. We'll talk about that a bit later. But that's kind of the journey to med school in terms of the application and everything else you need to do outside of school. University selection. So the reason I put this in here, because it's probably around the time now where you're thinking about what university do I want to go to. You've maybe heard of all of the ones that you can study medicine at. You might only know a few, you might not know any. There's quite a few things to consider when you're looking at universities. So, and medicals itself. So split it into two. So number one I've put here is the university itself. So where is it? Do you want to be in a big city? Do you want to be in a small city? Do you want to be in a rural, nice campus with lots of trees and a lake and things like that? You need to think about what you want. Do you have any hobbies, for example, that you need the sea or a river for? That would be good to bear in mind. I had quite a few friends that did rowing, so obviously they wanted to be at universities next to big rivers and with rowing clubs, for example. I've put here league tables and student satisfaction. So some things to consider, but I'll put an asterisk there, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. But there's some things you can take into account when making that decision, or for the university in particular. And also I've put here societies and extracurricular opportunities. Like I said, with the rowing side of things, there might be other hobbies you have, different societies that some universities offer and some don't. So that is important to take into account for your downtime and your work-life balance. Now, next is the medical school itself. So you need to take into account, well, what do you need to get into that particular medical school? Some look at more on the grades and the academic side of things. Others look more on the work experience in UCAT. So it's important to look into that. So don't worry too much about that now, but I'm just making you aware. Different medical schools teach medicine in different ways. So some have more problem-based learning, some are more traditional in their lectures. So it's important to find out a bit more there. And I've also put about league tables and student satisfaction, particularly for the medicine course. But with the asterisks, I put take with a pinch of salt. Now, the reason I put that is I went to King's College London. And actually, when I first joined, in terms of medicine rankings with student satisfaction, it was actually near the bottom. But actually, I had a fantastic time. So I say take with a pinch of salt, because doesn't always mean that they're not doing very well or anything like that. Any medical school you go to, by the end of it, you will have a medicine degree, same as everyone else who went to all the other universities to study medicine.